Hello and welcome to Reanimated, episode 145.
Woo!
Yeah, my name's Stuart. That was HA. She's in New York. I'm in California. How hot is it where you are? Just out of curiosity.
I feel really bad telling you what it's like here, actually. It's like 80 degrees, no humidity.
That's unheard of.
Clear skies.
You don't get no humidity
well,
on the East Coast.
Compared to yesterday, because basically this huge storm came through and destroyed all the humidity. And so today
what I wouldn't give for a thunderstorm right now. It's been 100 degrees since, only for the last 3 days. It was 110 or so on Sunday. Today it was just a measly 100. And tomorrow it'll be 100 plus, and then on Thursday it'll be 107.
So are you currently podcasting from a river right now?
I am a river, yes. I'm a river to my people. I'm disgusting. So let's do this thing. Let's get it going. We're talking today about 100. That's the name of the episode. It's the 4th episode of the 3rd season of Fear the Walking Dead. And before we get to that, we've got a couple of little news tidbits to hit up. Number one is, and it's actually not the article that I think is the most newsworthy. It's the fact that Forbes is having a full-on love affair with Fear the Walking Dead, with publishing multiple articles praising it within days of each other. And then, like, so 3 days ago, they're like, yeah, Fear the Walking Dead is doing everything right this season. And then yesterday, after 100 came out, they're like, it's official, Fear the Walking Dead is better than the original. So I just thought that was pretty amusing.
It's amusing also, the writing, whoever is writing these articles is a terrible writer, and their conclusions are based upon faulty logic, in my opinion. But it is funny, the love affair that Forbes is having with Fear the Walking Dead. It kind of feels like they were like, hey, this show, why don't you just take this and run with it? and maybe they're just making it their feature of the week. I don't know, but it's kind of funny.
There's not a whole lot else on right now, like American Gods just ended. I feel like, man, I'm kind of depressed when I think about it. I have to wait for Game of Thrones to come back.
Well, Game of Thrones is almost back.
It's
close.
But it's been delayed. I mean, usually we're deep in it by June.
I know. It has been. I'm feeling kind of sad about that, because there's like kind of a season that you watch Game of Thrones and summer doesn't feel like full height of summer, but. No. But I guess we'll have to deal with it. And hopefully the delay is for a good reason. Though did you see that Kit Harington at some point lost a camera that he had used like on set? And had taken a bunch of pictures, and then I guess he had lost the camera and was like all worried that all the photos from the set were going to show up online somewhere. They did not, but it was still kind of amusing.
It could still happen.
I was hoping for some White Walker, action, behind the scenes action, but nothing.
Yeah, I'm sure you were hoping for some Kit Harington camera action. We all know
how much I love him. Yes, I know.
The lascivious depths of H.A. Conrad's obsession with Kit Harington. However, Forbes aside, Den of Geek also had an article revealing a J.J. Abrams World War II zombie film coming in 2018. Thoughts?
Yeah. I am generally excited for anything that J.J. Abrams does. The plot of this seems a little weird to me, but he usually pulls off and does good productions. He's had a few misses, but overall I really love JJ. So I would be happy to watch anything that he creates.
Yeah, the brief is a little bit simplistic.
Yeah.
It sounds a lot like what was that, like Dr. Frankenstein zombie Nazi movie we watched. Yeah.
That's what it does feel like, but I'm kind of hoping that this is just early days and they just don't know what to say about it yet. But usually, like, the projects that he takes on has a twist or has something else going on, so I'm kind of hoping that that's the case here. And usually what JJ does, if he does kind of a movie that has, like, especially if it's, like, has, like, a fan following or he goes all the way. And so I'm hoping that that's the case here. So maybe we'll see some solid horror action.
Well, we can only hope. Let's look forward to that. But in the meantime, we kind of have a renaissance on our hands with Fear the Walking Dead. Would you agree?
I think it's still early days. I'm not going to give that. I will give them that these episodes have been stronger than anything else that has come before. But I kind of feel like you have to. This is still early days.
Okay, so
four episodes does not make a comeback.
And the first two weren't even that strong. It's really just
from
on
my
the strength
point of view.
of 3 and 4.
Right,
I'm saying we're dealing with 2 good episodes in a row, and this is almost unseen on Fear the Walking Dead.
Well, yeah, and I think that's a little bit why the Forbes person was reacting so strongly, is that we have not seen any of this, and I am optimistic. I really, really liked this last episode.
Right. So 100. It was directed by Alex Garcia Lopez, and then it was written by Alan Page, and it takes place almost entirely in Tijuana and the dam near there. And it is, with only like a few lines exception, it's almost entirely in Spanish.
Yes, it was very amusing watching this on the train, because I actually had people. This always happens when you watch anything on the train in New York on the subway. People will they're kind of trying to see what you're watching. They're bored or whatever, and because this had subtitles, people were actually like reacting to it. So this one woman over my shoulder, at one point, I heard her go, "Oh my God!" like, because she's following along, and I'm just like, "Oh, whatever. It's just New York." But I enjoyed the fact that
getting into my personal time here, lady.
There's no personal space on the subway really, but it actually made me laugh. I wasn't annoyed by it. I just was, laughing because, she doesn't have to watch. And I do try to be discreet, because I don't, especially if there's like kids on the train or whatever, I try to be in a corner where nobody's really around, or at least you can kind of shield it. But she was quite intent on watching it, so there it was. But anyway, subtitles. What did you think of that?
When I'm watching these episodes right now, I usually watch them twice. So once with a second screen in play, kind of like, because I'm a lazy TV watcher right now. I don't have a lot of time or energy to like devote to a television show. American Gods has been one of the only shows that can capture my attention 100%, and so I put everything down and I just watch that show. But Fear the Walking Dead, I've been having a second screen involved, and so.
Wait, when you say second screen, are you playing a game? What are you doing?
Maybe I got something going on one monitor, and I'm watching it on the second monitor, or I've got my phone and I'm like cruising Facebook or something while I watch TV. I'm like, I have ADD. I've got late onset ADD.
Oh no, I'm just kind of laughing because I do the same thing. But I usually am playing like games while watching, and it drives Bill insane.
But no, totally. I'll have like RimWorld or something playing. For anybody who knows what the hell that is, which is a post-apocalyptic survival game, by the way. And then it'll be I'll have the episode on the other thing. But when you've got subtitles, of course, that makes it really difficult. So I had to pay more attention. And I've watched this episode twice. Like, I try to watch all of them twice before we talk about them, just so I pick up on stuff that I might have missed otherwise. I enjoy movies with subtitles ordinarily, and TV shows. I don't have a problem with that. But I know that it is a barrier to entry for a lot of people. But I think it was. I mean, it's always testing my knowledge of Spanish. Like, I watch a lot of Narcos. I binge those seasons when they come on Netflix, and I feel like my Spanish is getting better. My like passive intake of Spanish just from having it on all the time,
I don't have a ton of Spanish because I very smartly studied French when I was in school. I should have done Spanish. I do understand a little bit. And honestly, most of what I've picked up is because the very kind people that work in the diner in my neighborhood are teaching me Spanish. And so I know certain things, but mostly I know it just by inflection or context, if that makes sense. So I'll kind of pick up, I get certain meanings, but sometimes they like go crazy and say lots of things. I'm like, I don't understand. So I understood a little bit here, but definitely I would not consider myself to be. I'm not able to not watch the subtitles and still understand what's going on. And with French, I can do that.
Yeah, but this episode is it's all about Daniel Salazar, right? So it's all the backstory that we kind of thought we were going to get after he had his reappearance in the last episode. Even though that his scenes with Strand's scenes and then his sudden reappearance felt a little bit weird at the end of the last episode, this episode brings it all home, and it's a really strong episode. Speaking for myself, and we pick it right up from the vineyard, Thomas's estate, and kind of walk it all the way into Tijuana in just a short few cuts of him like limping down the highway and then into Tijuana, and then he has this really cool scene where he's hiding from a zombie who just kind of like isn't having it.
Yep.
Just turns around and then he's like, I better limp away. I don't know. I really love that sequence. And then
it was a good sequence. I love how it's totally unclear, or at least the way he's walking around. He really looks like a walker. Could easily be mistaken for a walker. He's definitely got that kind of weird shuffle. Mainly, what looks like a burn on his leg from the fire is the main cause of it. Whoever did the makeup on that weird zombie, the one that turns around to get him, I don't know what she was wearing, some kind of like athletic jacket and like a mini skirt.
Short shorts and fishnets.
Something.
She was like out on the town.
Yeah, but she was really good, and I loved that and he did great. I thought that his acting was fantastic, but he's been looking for water. He's just so weakened that he knows that he can't even really. He knows he's not going to win in a battle with this zombie, so immediately tries to find cover. So that was pretty good.
So a major element of this episode is Daniel being saved by what kind of starts to feel more and more like divine providence.
Yep.
Like first,
more and more. I think they're hitting that over the head.
But it's kind of weird though. This show has never been like higher power, and now it's stuff. After this episode, you're like, wait a second, and I don't know if they're like playing to a Mexican American kind of cultural feeling about the importance of that in that culture or what. But first, he gets saved by a dog barking at the most opportune time, and I'm sure that any dog that's lived this long into the apocalypse doesn't survive by going around barking at zombies. You know what I mean?
And that dog was pretty healthy looking,
it doesn't reappear. It's not like somebody's dog.
No, which is what I kind of thought was going to happen, and then it didn't.
But then Ephraim saves his life. His life is saved like 4 different times or more in this episode.
Well, the interesting, the thing about Daniel, though, is that he has said multiple times, like when his wife died and, when he finally confessed to Ophelia, he's definitely, even before the crazy stuff that happened with the fire and at the ranch, he was already grappling with his existence. He's been grappling with his demons a while, and this, I'm very happy about the fact that we got to see a lot more of Daniel, because I love this actor, and I feel like he was wasted in the first few seasons of this.
He had some good stuff in season 2 before he went off the deep end.
He did, but not even when they first announced that he was cast in this series, I was just hoping to see a lot more of his storyline, and they'd tease you with it. But this was the first real episode where you could really get into it with his character, and I'm very happy to see that. And that's, his redemption, his struggle and his redemption are just like the common themes in this episode, and they do it really well.
And fantastic, isn't it? Yeah. So he's like begging for forgiveness to various characters throughout this episode, and he's being spared by acts of natural wonder, whether they be by dog or by lightning bolt, and by the kindness of strangers. And so, and there's just, even within this episode, there's a great arc of his character being like one of these, being this weak, piece of shit who can't take care of, can't like kill one zombie. He is saved. He's nurtured. He gets his strength back basically, and then he falls in with the wrong crowd, and kind of becomes a goon. Mm-hmm. But then by the end, he's again like, he redeems himself. It was a very nice kind of arc to this episode, which we don't always get, and it was nice in that it was so focused on his character and on a couple maybe new characters who might be regulars on the show. This show unfortunately kind of picks up these people like the Ephrains and the Lolas, and maybe it'll throw them away again. Yeah,
I do like Ephraim and Lola though. I hope they stick around for a little while longer. But we also get to see
the guy who plays Ephraim, Jesse Borrego. Do you recognize him at all? Because he was on all kinds of TV in the 80s and 90s, like Miami Vice.
Oh yeah, he's always like that guy on those shows.
He was more of like a goon himself, I feel like, in a lot of stuff. He used to play like drug dealers on Miami Vice and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was cool to see him.
Yeah, no, I liked him. I liked how the story was very much contained, but kept moving, and I didn't feel the pacing issues that I've had with some of the other episodes. And I felt like the storytelling was so tight in this, just in laying out exactly what happened with him. And what was impressive about this, which, we have seen in Fear the Walking Dead, but they kept revisiting this theme with Daniel, but it didn't become repetitive. So we first see him in the beginning when he's injured, he's rescued, and he is brought back to somewhat health. Then he ends up in that crazy drain thing. It's almost like a swamp monster. God knows how he managed that one.
How he survived that one.
Yeah.
I know, another miraculous survival, frankly.
Right, and then the next part is just a little bit less in your face, but it's more of the decay of who he had become as a person and regressing back to the person he was as a torturer and interrogator.
Right. But the low point of that regression is when Strand tries to pull a fast one on him and he catches him in it.
Oh, he does. It's good.
Yeah, and that was a great scene, honestly, and the only English language like dialogue. But so Strand overreaches, Salazar catches him in a lie, and then he says, "My daughter's dead, her father is dead, and you were dead." And you're like, "Oh damn, dude, he's gone. Like Daniel's done." But then, to me actually that was only one of the only weak points in that preceded one of the only weak points in this episode, which is when right after that scene he walks into the Ephraim torture scene. Mm-hmm. And Lola's there, and I don't know why Lola would have been there, because she's like the dam engineer.
Yeah.
Like, why would she be in an interview or a torture chamber? Like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, I thought that was a little odd, but I felt like he must have suspected her, which is why she was there. Perhaps
that could definitely be it. It also seems like Dante is managing this dam with a really small crew of heavies.
Yeah, and I also...
he's got JC and a couple of other dudes and not much else.
Yeah, the other thing that I thought was a little bit weird just about the whole Lola character is that she is basically she is the person that knows how to keep the water sanitized and clean and drinkable. And to me, she would have a lot more power than she does, or that it would appear that she does. And I know that you can't do anything against machine guns, but it just feels as if she would be a lot more valuable. So even if she had betrayed Dante, there's no way he's going to kill her just because her knowledge of how to keep the dam working would be invaluable to him. I mean, he might do something to her, but he's not going to throw her over that thing. I mean, just no way. So, anyway, that bothered me. We'll have to
see if they elaborate on the dam environment. Maybe there's more. There's definitely going to be more characters involved in this, unless they abandon this whole set as soon as the story is over, and it's just like next scene we see is Daniel and Strand just driving off looking for Ophelia. They might just throw it all away, but I have a feeling that they would try to make us think that there were other people other than Lola who could do what she did, you know.
True.
This episode is really strong, even with its slow moments, like the scene with Ephraim and Daniel in his little hovel, when Daniel's living like the homeless lifestyle as he recuperates, and he gives Ephraim a haircut, and it's like it's one of the only selfless acts that Daniel's ever made on this show, and it's just really touching. The relationship between these two guys within one episode they're so close that Daniel's confessing everything to Ephraim. Ephraim's just like this, one of the few people in the Walking Dead universe that you kind of trust from the get-go. Mm-hmm. That he just seems so open and so honest, and even though he's probably a super alcoholic and never stops drinking mezcal.
True. But, Daniel immediately thinks that he's a priest, and so he's identifying with him as that. So I think no matter what Ephraim is, I think Daniel views him as like that kind of a figure. So, in all fairness, Ephraim saves him. He gets him medical care. And even some of the advice he's giving Daniel, he doesn't actually forgive Daniel. He's basically like, the good news is nobody's around left to judge you, and then he like passes out before he can say the other part, which is what I'm guessing he was going to say, is like, no one's left to forgive you either. It's very much, in addition to the sort of acts of God that saved Daniel, there's so much like religious symbolism running around rampant in this episode, especially as it relates to the water. And baptism, and there's like the fountain that starts every day at 5:00, and it's not necessarily religious per se, but it's that those kind of buttons, I think, are definitely being pushed in this episode.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's very like it's like a hero's journey, and so that all makes sense to me. Where Daniel is he's a little bit of a prodigal son, he's a little bit of a Lazarus. So they've got all sorts of tropes and themes running through this. I think ultimately, sort of the journey that he's on in this makes you, ultimately Daniel's the one who's going to have to redeem himself, which he does. And he can't rely on anybody else. Like, it all has to come from him.
Well, you say that, but even in the very last scene, he's asking for forgiveness from yet another person.
He is, but I feel like Ephraim's... Oh, you mean in the very, very last scene?
Yep. Yeah, where he's asking Lola for forgiveness. Like, he says it, And ultimately, she gives him some measure of forgiveness. We'll have to see how far that extends, because I think she's still pretty pissed off at him.
Well, she has a definite right to be.
Pablito is dead.
But I wasn't talking about the forgiveness piece with him. That part is always he's gonna need that from other people, I think, unless he finds Ophelia. But I just mean in terms of his actions relating to the others, because what he does in the end is ultimately an unselfish act.
Yeah, we get a couple of. I mean, that's a cool scene of like an action scene of Daniel Salazar being a badass. We also have another scene of him being a badass in the cantina, where JC fingers his Spam loaf, and he responds in the only way a man can, which is stab that man and then punch him, and then allow another man to touch your lip and pull it down in a very revealing way. Yeah. Sombra Negra is apparently a real thing. Still exists today. Apparently, they're like vigilante death squads, but they've been going on for a long time. So he's got real pedigree, I guess.
He does. I don't know how plausible it is that Dante would recognize his name, let alone what he was. I think he did recognize his accent.
Yeah, that's why he makes him repeat himself, right?
Yeah. No, he does.
I assume that was why he's like, what did you say? Say that again. Dante Esquivel, who is the municipal president, is what Lola calls him, which I guess just means like mayor or maybe like public works director for Tijuana, which is why he has a dam, and maybe that's why he has goons. But yeah, why he would be like, yes, of course, I'm very familiar with the death squads of El Salvador,
Right.
all the way up here on the border of the United States and Mexico.
Well, maybe I'm
You
wrong.
know,
It did seem like he recognized Daniel, though, but maybe not. It seemed like there was, maybe it was just the accent, but it almost seemed like they were trying to make that connection, which I thought was like, I don't know about that. But
yeah, because I'm pretty sure that the Sombra Negra dudes made their living through secrecy and not letting anybody know who they were.
right, which makes it kind of interesting that they would tattoo it on the inside of their lip, because that's a pretty easy thing to find. Just saying.
You know how many people you're gonna let put their fingers in your mouth?
More than the average bear, I would imagine.
Anyway, it's an interesting relationship between those two. Dante seems to like really, with gusto brings him into the fold, even though he's made JC look like a fool. And almost as soon as he brings him in and they go out on that patrol, we see him slipping down this slope of like, I'm gonna give up Ephraim's hiding spot to protect the water fountain. But then when he's talking to Lola, he's like, don't ask me to save people who are already dead, which of course is completely hypocritical given that they just saved him and he was essentially already dead. So as an audience, we're all like, no, Daniel, don't be a dick.
Yeah,
And,
but I mean, I think he's also, I do think that he was worried that they would find the other people there, and he knows that they're hiding there, and he's worried that the goon squad is going to go hunting, basically, and so he just doesn't want them. So even though he's acting tough with Lola, I don't really buy that. I also think it's pretty clear that he's reacting to Lola as if she's Ophelia. So there's that too. There's lots of this father-daughter, mother-son themes going on, which we saw with Maddie and Troy in the last episode, and now we're seeing it with Daniel and Lola. And interestingly enough, Lola also takes on a similar role. Like Ophelia is not afraid to tell her father what she thinks, and she has in the past, and Lola has very similar reactions. And so I do feel like part of why he gets to where he does is because of that reaction that Lola has, that she's not going to just accept his behavior, and she holds him accountable for it.
I'm not so sure. I don't know why it took him as long as it did to bounce back, but even after he has that conversation with Lola and she says things to him like, you belong here, this place is perfect for you, he basically parrots that exact phrase to Strand, but in a much less nice way, right. Saying, hey, you belong here, you're going to die here. When she's telling him, like a scene earlier, she's like, you belong here. You're a dick. You're a thug like the rest of these thugs. Mm-hmm. So I'm not so sure that he's having this great reaction to Lola, even though she is clearly like a good guy in this scenario.
Oh, I don't think he's having a good reaction, but I do think that no matter what, the things that she has said to him are making him think. And
maybe
he can't just put his head in the sand and keep being as stoic as he appears to be, and I don't think he is.
To me, it's this. I don't really understand entirely why he does have his change of heart, but it doesn't seem to happen until after he's knocked the crap out of Ephraim in the torture room, and I don't know why it had to come to that, because he could have just shot all those guys in there instead of waiting until they were out on the catwalk.
True, but then they couldn't. But then they couldn't have Strand out there, and I think they needed him out there somehow.
I know, like for the TV show, it had to happen that way, and poor Pablito had to go over the edge before. Also, I don't know why the hell that guy got picked out of the lineup. Him and the big guy, Ave or whatever his name is.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
That's
kind of weird.
Dante is clearly just killing people all the time, and yeah, dude had to go. I'm glad that Daniel takes him out as fast as he does. Doesn't even give him time to really.
He's so badass too. Like I really like all of his scenes when he does like the crazy stuff that he does are really good because he's just so powerful. And then they immediately counter it where he just becomes completely helpless. So that is kind of a cool. Yeah, no, absolutely. So that's like a nice. I just like love that contrast.
Yeah, and you know what we need. not to say that like Travis leaves the show and so we need another male, hero type character, but I don't know. I get a good feeling from seeing a guy be awesome. It could as easily be a lady. If Luciana wasn't laid up, I'm sure she'd be kicking ass and taking names. But, with Nick, Alicia, and Maddie being the rest of our core team, and none of them are really doing much over at Brokejaw other than doing bong hits and hunting boar and ripping journal pages out. I'm not feeling it on that end, so it was good to have somebody come back in and start being a boss.
Well, yeah, and it's also good because they really, with what they did with Strand the last episode, maybe we'll see a little bit more of the good stuff with Strand now that he has Daniel to sort of counter him, because Daniel definitely has his number.
Those two are not on good terms, right? I mean,
they're not, but it's fun.
Yeah.
That scene was one of the best scenes.
Yeah.
Because Daniel is not. I mean, Daniel is smart.
Strand was dumb, and you don't see Strand screw up a lie like that ever. So I thought that was actually good writing. Mm-hmm. And we continue to see him off his mojo, and so I don't know. It would be good to see him get his mojo back, but it's also nice to see that he's not one dimensional.
Right. So in any case, in a nutshell, I truly enjoyed this episode. I want to see a lot more of Daniel. And I am very curious to see, I mean, Ophelia was taken in, we think, by the Ottos, right? Because it was Otto that grabbed her, Jeremiah Otto. Yep. And it's, I think, who knows where she is. My concern, based upon their reaction to Luciana, is that I hope she's not in some kind of a hole somewhere. But we shall see.
Well, some other interesting tidbits that came out of Talking Dead, because the guests on Talking Dead were Drew Scott from Property Brothers, of course, Jesse Borrego, who plays Efrain, and Ruben Blades, who is Daniel Salazar. So it was a really cool couch on Talking Dead. And what was most interesting to me, like the revelation, was Ruben Blades. Well, there's a lot of revelations about Ruben Blades. Like A, he ran for president of Panama during the 90s.
Plus, B, he's got the coolest name ever.
he's got a huge recording career. Like he does salsa music. He's got an album dropping soon. And C, this was the most Spanish he's ever done, like as far as acting goes. Like this was the only time in his career that he has done this much Spanish speaking.
Oh my gosh, camera. Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's just bananas. So congrats.
He's a phenomenal actor. So
yeah,
very happy.
He does a lot with just like doleful eyes.
I know.
But then he can like steal his face. Yeah. It was pretty cool.
And he does a great, just a truly convincing job about somebody who is completely given up. And I do think that the effects in this, the few zombies that we did see, they did a really great job, even with the weird dam zombies, the ones that they're taking out of the drains, and just that whole idea was kind of a cool idea. Like they're totally waterlogged and weird. And even though the lightning strike thing was a bit over the top, it was still kind of cool to watch.
It was a cool looking zombie. It was weird that they made him stand there and wait to get hit by lightning.
What was he? Was he just like some weird giant Viking strange zombie? He looked like he was wearing like this massive leather coat or something. I was just like, why are you in Tijuana? But okay. He
did look like he looked like an extra from Vikings.
I know, that's exactly what I thought. And in fact, oh well, maybe he is a reference, which would be even funnier.
But short podcast about something we love, which is rare. This was a great episode. We can only hope that they continue in this trajectory. And, I'm kind of psyched because they set up a pretty cool storyline for Maddie going out on some mission out of Brokejaw for this coming episode. So let's hope that we continue in this vein and Forbes can live up to their
their very gushy review.
Yeah. It's the best show on television.
OMG.
OMG.
Anyway, But I am actually looking forward to the next one, so I hope they keep this up. So whatever's going on in the writing room and with the show running, I think maybe they have totally switched over. But again, it's still early days. But I'm definitely optimistic.
Yeah. So let us know what you guys think. You can email us at reanimatedpodcast@gmail.com. Reanimatedpcast is our Twitter. And, of course, you can leave us a comment on our website at reanimatedpodcast.com. In the meantime, I guess, we'll be back next week with more Fear the Walking Dead. And we'll talk to you soon.
Ciao.
Thanks for listening. Bye.